Dear Illuminaughtii, the video just released by Oz Media, an hour-long extensive timeline which depicts every single event that has happened to lead us to where we are now. Oz Media has made a significant statement in his latest video. With this video, he states that he's actually willing to speak as if he is under oath in the court of law. We are getting his truthful recounting of events that stem from the beginnings of last year. Over the past 8 to 9 months, Oz Media has been embroiled in a bunch of legal proceedings at the behest of Blair, otherwise known as iilluminaughtii. Oz Media has received public support in the form of his GoFundMe, which has actually acquired over $40,000, which aim to be used for legal fees. Oz Media has chosen to publicly dissect Blair's claims, arguing that iilluminaughtee's lawsuit is based on misconstrued facts and a selectively curated timeline. Oz Media expresses that he's completely exhausted after all of this, and within his video he aims to demonstrate that iilluminaughtii is actually the architect of her own downfall. In this video he plans to scrutinize the latest court filings, accompanied by a detailed timeline of events. In addition to this, his video actually aims to acquire more funds from the GoFundMe, which will actually go to help out the other people affected by Blair's legal rampage. And surprisingly and interestingly and honorably, he presents Blair an ultimatum. If Blair accepts this ultimatum, Oz Media states that he will refund all new GoFundMe proceeds, but only once all the set legal terms are met, which he depicts in the outro of his video. The reason why Oz Media presents this ultimatum is because he's done with all the stress that Blair has caused him, and in fact it's actually affected his personal life in such a significant way, which we'll get into later on in this video. Oz Media's opinions on Blair is that Blair's lawsuit, in his opinion, relies on the misconstruence of facts and utilizes a personally created timeline of events. Oz Media keeps reiterating himself that he has become exhausted of Blair's legal shenanigans, and Oz Media has decided to take actions into his own hands, which is fair enough on him, because I cannot imagine how this feels to keep getting monthly bills of $4,000, $8,000 for this stupid lawsuit. And it really presents the dangers of when you get too much power and then you feel like you can silence people through the legal system. Another reason why Oz Media has decided to make this hour-long recounting of events is to show Blair's lawyers and to reveal to the judges that he is not the sole proponent of Blair's misery, but she is actually the architect of her downfall, and he selectively chooses to dissect the most recent court filing at the end of his video after his accompanied detailed retelling of events. Another purpose of this video is actually to enact another round of the GoFundMe, because he says, and I quote, that it isn't just for himself anymore, it's actually to defend Blair's former employees that Blair is still bringing legal action against. Oz Media presents an ultimatum where if Blair accepts, he will actually refund the acquired funds from the GoFundMe back towards the people that have donated. He says the reason why he offers this choice for Blair is because there are factors in his personal life that he has to consider to minimize causes of stress. Now he goes on to reveal that this isn't just for him, it's actually for his girlfriend. So to get into this timeline, Oz Media shows utter disgust at being painted as the jealous ex, as we've seen in our last video, where honestly it's just completely ridiculous that that would actually be used as a main key factor within Blair's legal proceedings. It really is just sort of disgusting that she uses this to silence her critics. And we'll see later on in this video, this isn't the start of the lengths Blair would go to completely tarnish other people's names. On April 20th, 2023, the story begins with iilluminaughtii calling out Legal Eagle for copying her editing style. On the same day, Legal Eagle would reply with his retort, basically saying that he's always been using these effects, where Oz reveals that these are just standard documentary effects and that this is just standard editing practice to ask how effects are done. Some of these effects include the skeuomorphism paper effect, as well as the simple action of just highlighting text. Oz Media Media then goes to reveal that all of these can be found as stock images online, and Blair has no monopoly over who can use highlighted text or a scrunched up paper effect. In this original thread, Blair levied these accusations against Legal Eagle as proof of copying by showing how one of Legal Eagle's editors actually DM'd her asking how a specific effect was made, which, yeah, Oz Media presents that this is normal for editors to do. Like, if you've got an effect and you ask how it's done, that's just, you're just teaching someone. It's just normal. It's not like you have the monopoly on the effect. Everyone's got to be able to learn. Blair actually ended up deleting these accusations and left no public apology thereafter or justification for any of her accusations. On this same day, April 20th, Bomber Guy would then post a tweet basically accusing Blair of plagiarism of a specific documentary clip. Oz Media says that Blair must have seen this and thought something bigger was in the works due to the specificity of the clip that Bomber Guy posted. Oz Media insinuates that this is when Blair started to plan her attack on her detractors. On April 23rd, 2023, 3 days later, The Click posted his Twitter thread, which depicts his version of events regarding the entire iilluminaughtii drama and states that he's not affiliated with her in any type of way. And at this point, Blair was yet to address the previously aforementioned Legal Eagle situation, which Oz Media states that this forced Click to actually publicly distance himself from Blair to avoid flack from the effect that her actions had caused. On the same day, April 23rd, Wonderstruck would post his own Twitter thread detailing the events regarding iilluminaughtii. Oz Media states that he was completely unaware that Wonderstruck was going to make this tweet from the bathtub, and he completely denies any claims that he and Wonderstruck masterminded her downfall. In fact, Oz Media states he did not know about the thread until he received a now deleted DM from Blair and several missed calls asking him why Wonderstruck did this. So that's also very interesting. Like, Oz had no affiliation with Wonderstruck's Twitter thread. He didn't even know it existed until Blair was the one that kept phoning him up. On April 24th, 2023, Oz Media says that because of his affiliation with Blair, at the time he was bombarded with so many questions from the community basically asking him to shed light on the situation. In Oz Media's thread, which he posted, he takes accountability for his actions in support of Blair and defends the credibility of his colleagues. He then goes to show a bunch of text messages between him and Blair, which he states are now unredacted because of the legal proceedings of the case, and he's presenting this video as if he is under oath. In these screenshots, Oz Media presents his need for peace and the need to look after his own mental health. Blair responds by giving details of her own mental health, and it seems like they agree to basically leave each other alone at this point. Interestingly enough, Blair at the end of this states that she will remove the BOLO from Oz's address, which is basically a form of swatting protection in the US, where if someone attempts to swat an address, if you're a public figure, the police force will first give you a ring to basically make sure that it's not a false accusation and they don't need to have to kick your door in for any reason. Blair removed this when Oz Media spoke out against her, which kind of seems malicious in nature. And on top of that, Oz Media states that he doesn't even know if this even existed in the first place, and that Blair could just be lying about instituting it right off the bat. Oz Media reaffirms that he is the one that asked for peace, and he is the one that wants nothing to do with her, and said that she sought out to remove his words from the internet. On April 28th, 2023, Blair uploads her response to her detractors and shows her apology to Legal Eagle. Oz states that this should have been made public earlier to stop him being pestered for answers by the community. After Blair made that public accusation against Legal Eagle, she then failed to make her own apology to him public, which would have actually quelled a lot of the noise that has actually subsequently affected Legal Eagle, and I assume it's affected his mental health. Oz then shows that Blair had chapters in her video which released private and personal information of her former employer employee Wondercat and actually accused him of mistreating his dog. Oz states that Blair has a track record of trying to leverage private and personal information for public pity, and states that as a response to complaints levied by Wonderstruck and Click, she, instead of apologizing, levies accusations against the two, which actually warranted them to hop on YouTube and make videos and Twitter threads defending themselves. Which, when you think about it, is kind of awful behaviour, and also the same thing Blair is accusing them of. So now we move on to the original filings of the lawsuit from Blair. In the original filings of the lawsuit from Blair, or iilluminaughtii, Blair attempts to paint her response as a de-escalation. This factual allegation was later removed in future amended versions of the lawsuit, as depicted here. Regarding the false accusations listed above, Blair made one public post attempting to debunk the misinformation. She has not publicly addressed this situation further in an attempt to de-escalate it. In her current complaints, there is no reference to her ever uploading this video or any reference to the public comments she made. So in essence, she's just trying to negate her part of the story where she's actually been throwing out these accusations and she's actually been making these videos in an attempt to make herself look better to the courts or to her lawyers or whatever. Blair also accused Wonderstruck of harboring in his Discord server. This is not de-escalation. This is firing off one of the worst accusations you can think of and fanning the flames even more, because you're now forcing Wonderstruck to have to defend himself. Although Oz states that he firmly believes in Blair's right to put out her telling of events, freedom of speech and all, but not to sue those who argue against said telling of events, and then he says that she's throwing rocks from glass houses. On April 29th, Wonderstruck, or I'm Wonder, responds with his twit longer, and then on May 2nd, Click's video response was uploaded on YouTube. In this video, documentation is shown from Felix the Kit Kat, who was actually previously anonymous before any of this started, who actually is shown to be on the receiving end of a DM from Blair, basically asking Felix to dig up dirt on Click for the price of $200. Felix the Kit Kat was a former Discord moderator turned manager at Pyramid Entertainment. Oz states that Felix is one of the individuals that the lawsuit funds will be aiding. So the GoFundMe proceedings will be trying to help Felix the Kit Kat and Wonderstruck and a bunch of other people who were former employees under Blair. Which leads us to May 11th, 2023. This is the day that Wonderstruck uploaded his video about iilluminaughtii, refuting all of the alleged mistreatment of his dog, which is so unfortunate that he has to hop on a video and recount these events. And he was also forced to live out elements of his mental health, where Oz states he was forced to relive his trauma in front of the world. And that is just horrible that Blair's put these people in this position through the legal system. In Oz Media's opinion, Blair includes her telling of these events to purposefully attack their character and their credibility, and this doesn't seem out of character for Blair to do. She seems horribly vindictive in this sense, where she will try and destroy a person and silence them by any means necessary. As of Oz Media's video's release, Wonderstruck has not been served by the courts and is on the table for dismissal, but Oz says that the GoFundMe will also be at his disposal as well if this continues. So that leads us to May 26th, 2023, where Blair responds on the community tab. She speaks on how she intends to clear false allegations against her, where she states, "Hey everyone, I'm fully aware of the recent false allegations that have surfaced. I want to take a moment to publicly state that I'm taking these allegations seriously and am committed to rectifying this situation promptly and appropriately. I understand the concerns and potential impact that these false allegations have caused. My team and I are actively working behind the scenes to gather all the relevant facts. I am committed to transparency and accountability throughout this process. Rest assured that I'm taking decisive action to address this situation. I will provide updates and communicate any necessary actions as soon as possible. Thank you to those who are standing by me during this challenging time. I will not allow these false allegations to be weaponized as a way to silence my voice. I appreciate your patience and understanding during this challenging time. I am dedicated to upholding my channel's values and delivering on our commitment. I am confident that the truth will prevail. Sincerely, Blair Zon. Bunch of waffle. Oz notes that since this, Blair has been publicly silent on her platform for over a year about all of these legal matters. Blair claims that she is being silenced, but she's actually the one using the legal system to silence other people. It really is. It's so disingenuous. On May 27th, Blair actually sends Wonderstruck a cease and desist for speaking out against her abuse towards him, where he states, Blair, aka iilluminaughtii, just sent me a cease and desist for speaking out against her abuse. I will not be silenced. So that leads us to June 6th, where Oz Media then received a cease and desist as well. At this time, One Topic released his video where he answers questions for his audience, where Oz says he has nothing to prove. Swoop would then upload her iilluminaughtii video where she would barely mention Oz Media. And then 2 civil protection orders were filed towards Wonder and Oz by Blair. Blair cites general harassment that she's received from all of this debacle, which is quite ironic. And this is where in the video Oz Media states that he wants nothing to do with anyone who has sent any kind of threat to iilluminaughtii, and makes it very clear that this kind of behavior makes things so much worse for everyone involved in this whole legal matter. And I have to agree, if you're sending any type of threat or anything to iilluminaughtii, you're really just making things worse. In the civil order against Oz Media, Blair states that Oz would physically assault her dog Casper, and then Oz Media responds to this outrageous accusation where he defends himself and basically said that Blair thanked him for helping out tremendously with caring for that dog. Now, obviously, I know nothing about that situation. I have no idea about those claims. But that is just horrible to accuse someone of if it's false. And it seems like a pattern where she accused Wonder of doing the same thing. Oz Media would then reveal the terms of the CPOSs, the civil protection orders, filed by Blair, are petitioners request that this court order asks the party to delete all posts he has made on social media since April 23rd, 2023, pertaining to Sad Milk, petitioner or her social media platforms. Refrain from posting about petitioner or her social media content on any of his social media accounts or on the social media accounts of others. Refrain from posting in the comment section of any petitioner's social media accounts. Refrain from interacting in any way with petitioner's social media posts. Refrain from encouraging any third party to post in the comment section of petitioner's social media accounts or reposting any of the petitioner's original content for any purpose. Refrain from making any videos or media about petitioner. Oz Media says that this is a gag order to prevent posting on Blair, which I have to agree. This is literally just, this is precautions to try and get people to remain silent. Oz Media then presents the insight that this is to lay the groundwork for Blair's retelling of the story with no retaliation, aka an attempt to silence her critics so she could rewrite the public narrative. On July 26th, 2 videos were posted about Blair with their own original telling of events. One from Cruel World Happy Mind, which details the alleged experience and was a victim of iilluminaughtii's harassment campaign, whilst being pregnant, and goes to talk about how Blair weaponized stress while she was pregnant to silence her, thus putting the baby at risk. And then another one from Savannah Marie where she levies accusations of plagiarism. Now that's just insane to take in, and it really just shows the horrific character of Blair iilluminaughtii, that she would repeatedly do these things, not only with the accusations of mistreatments of animals, but also the weaponization of stress for people who are pregnant. It's horrible to see. So on August 22nd, 2023, Blair began official proceedings to put Oz's home in foreclosure. Now, if you don't know what that means, it basically means that Blair put out an order where she could basically sell the home where Oz lived at because they signed the tenancy together or something like that. The details of this foreclosure was based in a debt that they had accrued whilst dating. Oz Media says he had to deal with a realtor who was knocking at his door and then suddenly told him that he was very excited to be buying his home from him, which must have been utterly traumatic and again, stress-inducing. Oz Media says that Blair possibly timed these events with not only the lawsuit filed against Oz from Blair, but the foreclosure of his house filed by Blair at the same time so that Oz Media could not focus on both cases but had to pick one, making it more likely that she would win the civil disputes. This brings us to August 29th, 2023, where Blair files a motion for a temporary restraining order against Oz, which were denied. Thankfully. Oh my gosh. Oz believes that if he were not to speak out against Blair in the first place, Blair would have not filed for the foreclosure of his house. He believes that all of this is retaliatory in nature. The restraining orders in question aim to prohibit the production of public videos on Blair and tells Oz to refrain from publishing their iilluminaughtii documentary. At this point in the legal filings from Blair, Oz Media had only made a Twitter thread and a 5-minute cameo on Wonderstruck's video. So the reaction from Blair is completely unwarranted for the critiques that were made against her. This is not how you react. You don't try and take away someone's house and then try and silence them and then try to take away their money and everything, like really attacking Oz on all angles, only after 2 things that he's done. All he did was do a Twitter thread and a 5-minute cameo in a video. Oz goes on to list how stressed this situation has made him. Felix the Kit Kat's motion to dismiss was actually denied at the time of writing, and he will have to be going through the standard legal proceedings with Blair. Oz reaffirms that the GoFundMe will also be able to help him as well. Oz then further states that this lawsuit is far from over. We're not even in the official stages of it yet. In Click's video, there is a screenshot of Blair asking for dirt on Click from Felix the Kit Kat and offered $200. Here, Blair would basically DM Felix the Kit Kat with a bunch of files and video clips for him to review to try and find Click basically saying the R slur. And she states that these screenshots in question are why Blair is suing for defamation as well as breach of contract. Oz Media reveals that what is not included in this lawsuit, however, is the screenshot evidence of Blair owning the alt account which was created to harass Click and his other cohorts in 2020. And he also reveals that NDAs for Blair's employees were not active on the dates where Felix's screenshots were released. So it kind of makes her whole point null and void, because you can't sign an NDA and then that means the NDA is applicable for all time in the past. It's only applicable for after you've signed the NDA. And he also says that there was no employment contract for Felix the Kit Kat or NDAs attached to these actions in service to Wet Socks LLC. The files in question are related to old audio recordings of Sad Milk videos and not Pyramid Entertainment. And then Oz Media points out that this is not standard company or business practice to try and find dirt on former employees for $200. Like, that's not something an official business should be doing. He also reveals that the PayPal transaction for the $200 made was actually made through friends and family, which further adds validity to the point that it was not an employee payment. So thus it doesn't breach any form of contract. That is more akin to paying your neighbour's kid to mow your lawn. So yeah, Blair's payments are not official for employees, and there's no official documentation to support that this was an official employee transaction. And this transfer was made in November 2020. Furthermore, with no documentation of how the payment was categorized. So the fact that Blair is trying to sue Felix the Kit Kat for breach of contract when it wasn't an employee payment, nor was it a employee act of service. The payment was also made in a time before the NDAs were signed, and it's a completely different company. The assignment was specifically in service to Wet Socks, not Pyramid Entertainment LLC. Oz Media states that he sees this as Blair retroactively changing the events of 2020 to fit her narrative, trying to claim that these were company communications and has framed it as such to make the lawsuit stick. Felix the Kit Kat then went on to reveal the full Blair DM, and I'll read that here. Hey, are you still short on rent? Rent, no electric, and phone. Yes, I'm at -$2 right now. No idea what I'm doing for lunch tomorrow, but I'm at the F it, I'll figure it out phase of my life. I have something for you, but it's a little tedious, iilluminaughtii writes. I mean, my life is nothing but tedium, so I can do it. I need you to work with blank to help me find Click saying the R slur in Sad Milk's raw audio. I can do that. Let me get a shower and I'll be down. She claims he said it in a Sad Milk video, but can't remember which one. And she's over her head with stuff. I'll pay you $200 to find it. Yeah, just hand me the files and I can get started. $200 will help quite a bit. There's the file and a file in the file. Most will have Discord calls, and I think it happened within the first 10 minutes. I'll check the whole recording to be sure. So, I'm looking at all 4 folders. Just go into the published file. So here, we have Blair purposely finding someone who's down on their luck with no money and then saying, can you do this for me and find this? I'll pay you $200. It seems so insidious. I'm like, her character is really shining through in this, and it's not nice to behold. In addition to this, Oz reveals that Felix was never handed physical legal papers. In fact, all of his legal papers were delivered to an address where he lives 2 hours away from, which opposes the processor's claim that they delivered it by hand. Blair then goes on to blame Felix for loss of revenue, but this was of her own volition and began to decline on April 20th, and after she uploaded her iilluminaughtii exposed response, where Oz Media shows the decline in viewership after these events. He also states that the judges are mistakenly under the impression that Felix was an employee and Click was a direct competitor, which is completely false because Click makes comedic, funny videos, whereas Blair makes serious documentary videos. They're not competitors at all. And finally, we get into Oz Media's outro, where he then presents an ultimatum to Blair, where I think I'm just going to have to play the clip here so I don't misconstrue Oz Media's words and just let you see for yourself.
The rough outline that I'm proposing, and I am open to negotiations on these terms within reason. Plaintiff must dismiss all claims against all parties with prejudice once amicable terms are set forth. Plaintiff and myself will agree on a third party who we both independently trust to host a fair conversation. Their responsibility will be to ensure that each person is not spoken over and is given a chance to clear their mind. Plaintiffs may also take this time to take accountability for their actions instead if they wish. Legal fees of either party will not be sought out, and this will be taken for the loss that it is. I can provide no personal guarantee in either circumstance that you, Blair, would be able to repair your public image or reputation. That is up to you. However, I am giving you the opportunity that your lawsuit will most certainly not. I would be open to additional terms being presented within reason. This settlement offer must be accepted, if at all, by a communication in writing delivered to my lawyer not later than the end of office hours June 7th, or it will be withdrawn without further notice. If my lawyer does not receive a response by the end of office hours on June 7th, I will assume that you've declined this offer, and I will proceed as planned with legal proceedings. We are open to negotiations within reason. I am only giving Blair this settlement offer because of the events which have occurred in my private life. If she declines, so be it. I have no qualms with proceeding with part 2.
Alright guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for joining if you're new. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for all the support recently. I really do appreciate it. And I just want to say, honestly, I wish everyone involved in this the best of luck. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.